The notification sound on my phone cut through the morning silence like a blade through skin. I was standing in my kitchen, coffee mug halfway to my lips, when I saw Ellie's name on the screen. The message that followed would shatter my world in 13 words. I'm leaving you. I found someone else. Don't try to contact me. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. My hand remained steady, a small miracle considering the earthquake happening inside my chest. Cole Barrington, software engineer, problem solver, logical thinker. That's who I was. That's who I'd always been. But logic doesn't prepare you for betrayal served cold through a text message. I set the coffee down without taking a sip and walked to my home office. My fingers moved across the keyboard with mechanical precision. First, I logged into our joint bank account, then our credit card accounts, then our investment portfolio. With each click, each password entered, I felt something inside me crystallize into something harder than ice. The numbers told a story. Expensive restaurants I'd never been to, hotel charges during my business trips, a jewelry purchase for $3,000, a bracelet I'd never seen her wear. The evidence painted itself across my screen in stark black and white. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Ellie. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. I'll be back for my things tomorrow. I almost laughed. Harder than it needs to be. She had no idea what hard looked like yet. I spent the next hour making calls. Bank manager first, explaining the situation with the calm detachment of a surgeon. Joint accounts frozen pending legal review. Credit cards canceled. Investment accounts locked. Each step felt like closing a door, but not the way she'd intended. The house felt different now. Every photo, every piece of furniture, every shared memory had been contaminated by her betrayal. I walked through our bedroom, noting what was already missing. Her favorite jewelry box, the red dress I'd bought her for our anniversary, the expensive perfume that had cost me 2 weeks' salary when we were first married. She'd been planning this for weeks, maybe months. My phone rang. Ellie's number. Hello, Ilara, I said, using her full name deliberately. Cole, what did you do? My card was declined at Target. The bank says, I protected our assets during a period of marital uncertainty, I interrupted. Standard procedure. You can't do this. I need money for what? Hotels with your boyfriend? Silence. Then, how did you... No, because I'm not stupid, Ellie. Unlike you, I actually look at our financial statements. Cole, listen. We need to talk. This isn't what you think. Really? So you're not seeing some guy named Kai Turner? Another pause. Longer this time. How do you know his name? Credit card statements. Kai Turner Photography. Kai Turner Marketing Consulting. Amazing how many business expenses you've had with him. Very thorough documentation of your affair. It's not an affair. We're in love. I hung up. Love. She called it love. I called it theft. The next morning, I did what any good software engineer does when faced with a problem. I gathered data. Kai Turner wasn't hard to find. LinkedIn profile, Facebook page, Instagram feed full of artsy photographs and motivational quotes about following your passion. He was handsome in that generic way that women seem to find irresistible. Square jaw, perfect teeth. The kind of carefully maintained scruff that probably took an hour every morning to achieve. His bio claimed he was a creative consultant and lifestyle photographer. Translation: unemployed with expensive equipment. I scrolled through his social media, noting the expensive restaurants, the craft cocktails, the weekend trips to wine country. All funded, I realized with growing clarity, by my wife's suddenly expanded marketing consulting budget. His latest Instagram post was from 3 days ago, a photo of 2 wine glasses on a restaurant table, captioned, "Perfect evening with my perfect woman." The location tag read, Le Bernardin, Portland. I pulled up our credit card statement. There it was, $340 at Le Bernardin, charged to Ellie's card. The same night I was home alone, eating takeout Chinese and debugging code until midnight. The rage that hit me then wasn't hot. It was cold, calculating, surgical. This wasn't passion. It was business. And I'd always been good at business. I spent the morning building a file, screenshots, bank statements, receipts, phone records. Everything documented, everything dated, everything organized in neat folders on my desktop. When you're about to go to war, intelligence is your best weapon. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Kai. We should talk." I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "No, we shouldn't. Look, man, I know this is complicated, but Ellie and I blocked the number before he could finish. I wasn't interested in his explanation or his justification. I was interested in his destruction. The afternoon brought another surprise. Ellie came home, despite her text saying she wouldn't. I heard her key in the lock, heard her footsteps in the hallway. She appeared in my office doorway looking nervous, guilty, but still beautiful. That was the worst part. She was still beautiful. "Cole, we need to talk." "No, we really don't. You can't just freeze me out of our accounts. I have bills. Your bills are your problem now. You made your choice." She stepped into the room, and I caught a whiff of unfamiliar cologne. His cologne. "I never meant for it to happen this way," she said. "How did you mean for it to happen? Were you planning to keep seeing him until I found out myself? Or were you hoping I'd just never notice?" She flinched at my language, but I was past caring about her delicate sensibilities. "It just happened, Cole. Kai and we connected. You connected my bank account to his lifestyle. I've seen the receipts, Ellie. This has been going on for months." Her face crumpled, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "I love him," she whispered. "Then you can support him. With your own money, from your own job. Which, last I checked, pays about $30,000 a year. The math was brutal and we both knew it. Kai's lifestyle required significantly more than $30,000 a year to maintain. "I'm staying at his place tonight," she said finally. "Good. Don't come back." After she left, I sat in the silence of our house, my house, and began planning phase 2. Kai Turner, as it turned out, was not nearly as clever as he thought he was. His business was registered as an LLC, but he'd made several critical errors in his incorporation paperwork. His tax filings were sloppy, his client list was inflated with fake references. In short, he was a fraud, and I had the skills to prove it. I spent the weekend digging deeper into his digital life. Social media accounts, business registrations, client testimonials. The picture that emerged was of a man living far beyond his means, using charm and fake credentials to land consulting contracts he wasn't qualified for. His photography business was particularly interesting. He claimed to specialize in lifestyle and corporate photography, but his portfolio was suspiciously thin. Most of his supposed work appeared to be stock photography he'd purchased and rebranded as his own. Monday morning, I began making calls. "Hello, this is Cole Barrington from Portland Business Journal. I'm doing a feature on emerging creative professionals, and Kai Turner's name came up. Could you tell me about your experience working with him?" The responses were illuminating. 3 of his supposed clients had never heard of him. 2 others had worked with him briefly before terminating the relationship due to unprofessional conduct. The picture that emerged was of a man who talked a good game but couldn't deliver. By Tuesday, I had enough information to destroy his professional reputation. But I wanted more. I wanted to understand how he'd seduced my wife, how he'd convinced her to risk our marriage for someone so obviously inadequate. The answer came from an unexpected source. Ellie's sister Madison called me Wednesday evening. "Cole, I'm so sorry about what's happening. Ellie won't talk to me, but I thought you should know. This isn't her first time." "What do you mean?" "She had an affair in college, with a married professor. It lasted 2 years. She got off on the secrecy, the thrill of stealing someone else's man." The pieces clicked into place. This wasn't love. It was a pattern. Ellie was addicted to the rush of betrayal, the excitement of living a double life. "There's something else," Madison continued. "She's been telling people you were abusive, that you controlled her finances and isolated her from friends. The audacity took my breath away. She was already rewriting history, painting herself as the victim and me as the villain. Madison, can you do me a favor? If anyone asks, tell them the truth, about her history, about the affairs, about everything." "I will." "Cole, I'm really sorry. She wasn't always like this, but I was beginning to suspect that maybe she was." Thursday brought a new development. Kai had apparently gotten tired of my silence and decided to take direct action. I found him waiting by my car in the office parking garage. "We need to talk," he said, trying to project confidence, but failing to hide the nervousness in his voice. "No, we don't," I replied, moving toward my driver's door. He stepped in front of me. "Look, I get that you're upset." "Upset?" I laughed, and the sound echoed strangely in the concrete space. "I'm not upset, Kai. I'm focused." "Focused on what?" "On you. On your fake business, your inflated client list, your tax problems, your immigration status issues." His face went pale. "How do you—" "I'm very good at research. Did you know that 3 of your supposed client references are fake? Or that you've been claiming photography credits for images you purchased from Shutterstock? You can't prove any of that." I pulled out my phone and showed him a folder labeled Kai Turner, Business Fraud. It contained 47 files. "I can prove all of it. The question is whether I will." He stared at the phone, then back at my face. "What do you want?" "I want you to disappear. Pack up, leave town, and never contact my wife again." "I love her." "No, you love her credit cards. Without access to my money, how long do you think this great love of yours will last?" He tried to look defiant, but I could see the calculation in his eyes. He knew I was right. "And if I don't?" "Then tomorrow morning I start making calls. The IRS about your tax filings. The Better Business Bureau about your fake credentials. Immigration Services about your visa status. Your clients about your fraudulent portfolio. Your landlord about your unpaid rent." "You're bluffing." I turned my phone screen toward him again. This time it showed a draft email to the IRS Office of Professional Responsibility, complete with attached documentation. "Try me." He stepped aside, and I got in my car. Through my rearview mirror, I watched him standing there, looking lost and smaller than before. But as I drove home, I realized something important. Destroying Kai wasn't going to be enough. The real betrayal was Ellie's, and she needed to face consequences too. Friday evening, Ellie came home again. This time she looked different, scared, desperate. She'd obviously talked to Kai about our parking garage conversation. "Cole, please, we need to work this out." "There's nothing to work out. You made your choice. Kai told me you threatened him. I offered him valuable career advice. He's free to take it or leave it." She sat down across from me, trying to look vulnerable and apologetic. It was a performance I'd seen before, usually when she wanted something expensive. "I made a mistake," she said. "I was confused, lonely. You work so much, and Kai made me feel special. Special enough to steal from me? I never stole." I slid a printed bank statement across the table. $3,000 for a bracelet, $2,000 for a weekend in Seattle, $500 for a photographer session that never happened. Should I continue? She stared at the paper, her performance cracking. I was going to pay it back. "With what money? Your part-time job at the gallery?" "I was starting a business with Kai." "Kai doesn't have a business. He has a fake LLC and a lot of stolen photography. Did you know about that, or were you just another mark?" The question hit home. I could see her realizing that she might not have been as special to Kai as she'd thought. "That's not true. Kai has clients, contracts." I pulled out my phone and played a voicemail from one of Kai's supposed clients, a man who'd never heard of him and was threatening legal action for unauthorized use of his company name. Face it, Ellie. You threw away our marriage for a con man. Tears started flowing then, but they felt calculated, strategic. I love you, Cole. I made a terrible mistake, but I love you. No, you don't. You love the lifestyle I provided. You love the financial security, the nice house, the ability to play art gallery worker without worrying about actually supporting yourself. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been having this conversation before you started seeing another man. Fair would have been honest about your feelings instead of lying for months. Fair would have been not stealing from our joint accounts to fund your affair. She tried a different approach then, moving closer, putting her hand on my arm. We can fix this. Marriage counseling, therapy, whatever you want. I'll do anything. For just a moment, I felt the pull of our history, the memory of who we used to be. But then I remembered the credit card statements, the lies, the complete betrayal of everything we'd built together. Anything except leave Kai? She hesitated too long before answering. I'll end it with him. You already have. He's leaving town. What? What did you do? I gave him a choice. Leave voluntarily or face the consequences of his business practices. You can't do that. You can't threaten people. I didn't threaten anyone. I simply provided information about the legal ramifications of fraud and tax evasion. She stared at me like she was seeing me clearly for the first time. I don't know who you are anymore. I'm the same man I've always been. You just never bothered to pay attention. Over the next week, I watched my carefully laid plans unfold with the precision of a Swiss watch. Kai's largest client terminated their contract after I forwarded them evidence of his fraudulent credentials. His landlord received an anonymous tip about unpaid rent and started eviction proceedings. The IRS began an audit of his business filings. Ellie tried calling me repeatedly, but I'd stopped answering. She showed up at my office once, causing enough of a scene that security had to escort her out. She sent emails, texts, even had friends call on her behalf. I ignored them all. The divorce papers were filed on Tuesday. By Friday, she was served at her sister's house, where she'd been staying since Kai disappeared, without saying goodbye. Saturday morning, I was cleaning out our bedroom when I found her diary, left behind in her hurry to pack. I almost threw it away without reading it, but something made me flip it open to a random page. Cole suspects nothing. He's so buried in his work, he doesn't notice that I leave for hours at a time. Kay is taking me to wine country next weekend. I told Cole it's a girls' trip with Madison. The lies are getting easier. I flipped to another entry. Kay says we should be more careful, but it's thrilling to sneak around right under Cole's nose. He's so trusting, so naive. Sometimes I feel guilty, but then Kay touches me and I forget everything else. And another. Cole asked about the charge at Le Bernardin. I told him it was a business dinner. He believed me immediately. Sometimes I wonder if he'd believe anything I told him. There's something exciting about how easy it is to fool him. The entries went on for months, detailing not just the affair, but her genuine contempt for my trust, her amusement at my obliviousness, her complete lack of respect for our marriage. I closed the diary and put it in the box with the divorce papers, evidence for my attorney. Sunday evening, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Kai standing on my porch, looking haggard and desperate. You destroyed my life, he said. No, I exposed your life. There's a difference. I lost everything. My apartment, my clients, my business. Your fake business built on fraud and stolen credentials. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Ellie won't even talk to me now. She says it's over. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Did you really think she'd stay with you once the money ran out? Ellie's not exactly known for her loyalty to struggling artists. You're a vindictive bastard. I'm a man who protects what's his. You should have thought about consequences before you decided to steal my wife. He stood there for another moment, clearly wanting to say more, but ultimately turned and walked away. I never saw him again. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. Ellie got half of our house value and her car. I got everything else, including all our investments, retirement accounts, and the business I'd built from scratch. The prenup she'd insisted on, claiming it was romantic to prove we weren't marrying for money, worked exactly as intended. Her lawyer tried to argue emotional distress and psychological trauma, but the diary entries and financial records painted a different picture. The judge was particularly unimpressed with her claim that I'd been controlling and abusive while she'd been spending thousands of my dollars on another man. I saw Ellie once more at the final hearing. She looked smaller somehow, older. The confident woman who'd walked out of my life had been replaced by someone desperate and calculating. "I hope you're happy," she said as we left the courthouse. "I'm satisfied," I replied. "You ruined my life. You ruined your own life. I just refused to let you ruin mine too." She walked away then and I let her go. 6 months later, I heard through Madison that Ellie had moved back to her hometown in Ohio, where she was working at her mother's insurance office and dating a divorced car salesman. Kai had left the state entirely, though no one knew where he'd gone. I sold the house and bought a smaller place downtown, closer to my office. I threw myself into my work, building my consulting business into something significant. I dated occasionally, but kept things casual. Trust, it turned out, was something that didn't heal quickly. But the rage was gone. The cold fury that had sustained me through the worst months of my life had burned itself out, leaving behind something harder but cleaner. I'd learned something important about myself. When pushed, I didn't break. I fought back, methodically and completely. Late one evening, almost a year after Ellie's text message had shattered my world, I was working in my new office when my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Cole, this is Ellie. I'm sorry for everything. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want you to know that I realize now what I lost. You were the best man I ever knew, and I threw it away for nothing." I stared at the message for a long time, remembering the woman I'd married, the life we'd built, the trust that had been destroyed. Part of me wanted to respond, to offer some final word of closure or forgiveness. Instead, I deleted the message and blocked the number. Some bridges, once burned, should stay that way. I turned back to my computer, to my work, to the life I'd built from the ashes of betrayal. The office was quiet, the city lights twinkling beyond my window. For the first time in over a year, I felt something approaching peace. The woman who'd tried to destroy me was gone. The man who'd helped her was gone. And I remained, scarred but unbroken, ready for whatever came next.